When I was a kid in the 80s, my dad kept telling everyone I was useless. I told him at least 31,000 times, "Dad, it's pronounced Ulysses." Later, I learned this was the Latin version of Odysseus, the ancient Greek hero of those oldest of Western epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Stories which recorded character archetypes and heroic plot devices which continue to frame some of our greatest stories 3,000 years later. The early 80s, when Ulysses 31 was first shown in Britain, was a muscular time. The tethers of the state were being cut. People were cast adrift in the growing yuppie pool of easy fast loads of money. IRA bombs lit up Belfast, London, even the very hotel one Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, was sleeping in. Riots, strikes, football hooliganism and the Falklands War. This was no time for the modern day religions of soy and wokery. As a mild-mannered boy who liked to hide away at times, rolling dice while reading fighting fantasy books, the Britain of the 80s was a terrifying place, where skinheads and punk remnants nutted brick walls in stinking alleys while trampling glass Lucasade bottles, needles and condoms underfoot. Aggression abounded everywhere. I remember two older boys, my next door neighbours, had dug a tunnel under their garden. Their form of fun was to force younger lads into it, cover the top with a sheet of cardboard, then cover that with earth. Sometimes they'd heighten the joy by telling said younger lads, "There's a bomb at the bottom." Suffice to say, there was no bomb in that pitch blackness. At least not one set to go off before 15 minutes, when, invariably, the older boys would let their captives out, laughingly claiming, "It's just a joke." Still, younger lads grow up to be bigger than the big boys, sometimes. However, there was wonder for a mild-mannered boy in the 80s. Rival TV networks, BBC and ITV, competed for that valuable after-school 3:30 to 6 p.m. slot, and boy, were we given heroes aplenty. I'd like to talk about one of them. Now, as a young lad, I had to forgive the strange name of stranger-looking cartoon Ulysses 31. It simply didn't sound anything like Tom and Jerry, Popeye or the Flintstones, which were always on a perpetual rerun. But here, once I had taken my first tentative glimpses while hovering at the door so I could avert my eyes quickly away and escape, was a journey that never patronised its audience. In equal parts it mystified, discomforted, terrified and inspired. Here, in Ulysses 31, we have a joint project. French weirdness and panache with Japanese creativity and expertise. A Herculean labour of love. A children's cartoon about an ancient Greek myth. A what? So a cartoon about history and mythology? You mean a cartoon through which kids were not only deeply entertained but could learn some deeper truths about humanity? And not just that, it was set in the 31st century, a sci-fi Greek myth. This, dear listeners, is what childhood curiosity, wonder and adventure are made of. The cartoon broadened the world of its watchers. It set an example of behaviour that the world now has almost lost. Within the aggression and frustration of the early 80s, I found Ulysses 31, a story about the most cunning of heroes, lost in the abyss, haunted and tormented by quite terrifying and somehow intangible Greek statue representation of Olympian gods, with his son, an alien girl, a little robot and a cursed comatose crew. Ulysses soared through strange galaxies in search of Earth, flying into the night.